Hello, I'm Nell Robert Favor, and I'll be performing Martin Luther King, the student, and Rosa Parks in his nonviolent protest movement. The video begins when I press this video. Wow, this essay test is really bulky. How much do you expect me to say about Martin Luther King? Well, let me get started. Martin Luther King was born in Atlanta, Georgia. He grew up in a very segregated community where black and whites were to be separated. Blacks were not only verbally, but physically hurt. And the white supremacist ideals, the city's white power structure, it really left him no other alternative but to retaliate. But it's how he did that revolutionized America. He did it non-violently. In the past, we took a stand against the Jim Crow laws, and Martin Luther King took a stand against the Georgia Code Book. And his father was a member of the National Association of Advancement of Colored People. He taught him not to stand for the lifestyle he was born into. He gave him a dream. And when Martin Luther King received his degree at Morehouse College, Martin Luther King studied at Crozer Theological Seminary. There, he had the opportunity to learn about Walter Rosenberg and the teaching of Mohandas Gandhi. He wanted to give this opportunity to all African Americans who did not have the luxury to go to good schools. Mohandas Gandhi really gave him his nonviolent protest movement ideals. And after being accepted at Boston University and receiving his PhD, he pursued his want to be a minister and became well known preaching in Montgomery, which was in the heat of segregation, the state of Alabama. And segregation was always a daily topic during his ministries, and the people of Montgomery did not take full action until 1955 when an African American woman, Rosa Parks, took a stand for not giving up her seat on the Montgomery bus. Oh, I'm sorry. I speak out loud when I take the test. I'll stay outside. The bus driver told Rosa, "Move, y'all. I want those 2 seats." 3 riders complied, but Parks did not. She simply replied with, "No. If you're going to have me arrested, you may do that. But I'll make sure everyone knows Negroes have rights too, for if Negroes did not ride the buses, they cannot operate. And Negroes will know next time it may be them or their daughter or their mother." Rosa was the secretary of the National Association of Advancement of Colored People, and after the victory of the NAACP with Brown versus the Board of Education, Rosa Parks' arrest brought great attention. Women's political council leader Rosalind Robinson helped build a case on Rosa, and the black community came together and done a citywide boycott on the Montgomery buses, which was 70% of the passengers at the time, and about 40,000 protesters refused to ride the buses. At Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, Martin Luther King was asked by the clergymen and people to lead the protest, and then began the year-long boycott for the first step for the advancement of colored people. The boycott was a success, and with the formation of the Montgomery Improvement Association and MLK as president, they succeeded. However, one night during the boycott, he received a phone call and picked up the phone, and out the receiver came, "Negro, if you aren't out of this town in 3 days, we're going to blow your brains out and blow up your house." He was receiving multiple vicious phone calls a day, but this one lived up to its word. On September 30th, 1956, his house was bombed by segregationists while his family was in it. Luckily, no one was hurt, but it was as if death is always lingering at any time to take him or his family away. But in conclusion of the Montgomery bus boycott, the Supreme Court rules all buses to be integrated. African Americans can sit anywhere they liked on the bus, and the triumph of the Montgomery bus boycott was only the beginning of the goal of the movement, the goal to desegregate the South. And after the victory of the South Christian Leadership Conference was created and became a leader in the fight against segregation, their first and main goal was voting rights for all African Americans. And the next movement demonstrations would take place in Birmingham. They would hold prayers at 16th Street Baptist Church, sit-ins in restaurants, and marches across Birmingham, singing hymns. Hymns like "We Shall Overcome." We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. However, an injunction was made to prohibit our protests, and Martin Luther King refused, and during his next march, he was arrested in Birmingham police. And in his jail cell, with his thoughts, he wrote a letter to the city of Birmingham. I wrote this letter to the city of Birmingham. On September 15, 1963, 4 children died in a racially motivated attack at 16th Street Baptist Church. The suspects of those who committed this immoral crime were able to walk away from justice. According to Bull Connor, the governor, he says, we don't give a damn about the law. Down here we make our own law. This thinking is unjustifiable. I'm in Birmingham because injustice is here. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Let us all hope that the dark clouds of racial prejudice will soon pass away, and the deep fog of misunderstanding will be lifted from our field-drenched communities. And in some not too distant tomorrow, the radiant stars of love and brotherhood will shine over our great nation with all their scintillant beauty. With the help of John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King was freed from jail, and he's shown the world the pinnacle of police brutality. He showed that Bull Connor and his police force used water hoses and dogs on people. And under international pressure, Birmingham made a compromise with the protesters, and segregated signs were torn down from public places permanently. And on August 28, 1963, the largest nonviolent march organized by the SCLC was made, the March to Washington. In attendance of the March to Washington, to Lincoln's Memorial, was celebrities, rich, poor, and even the President of the United States, and to make up a shocking number of about 250,000 of people that day. And MLK inspired the crowd that day, saying that we will never be satisfied until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. For we will let freedom ring from every state, and when we do, all God's people will join hands and sing in the waves of the Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Well, I was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1964, and that was not his greatest triumph in the nonviolent protest movement, for the landmark of American legal history occurred. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was signed, which was a lengthy law that covered many areas of discrimination, most notably voting rights and segregation. But the victories of the SCLC would impact the future for all citizens of the United States. For modern-day citizens practice MLK ideas, for example, when after about 100 people were held at airports due to Trump's travel ban, demonstrators peacefully gathered at terminals, condemning against discrimination against Muslims. Even with MLK great accomplishments, though, no one can see his incoming tragedy.
Sad news for all of you, and I think sad news for all of our fellow citizens and people who love peace all over the world. And that is that Martin Luther King was shot and was killed tonight
in Memphis, Tennessee, I was tragically shot, gunned down by James Earl Ray Jr. My death would cause massive riots across the nation, causing deaths and injuries. I did not ask for that, for it goes against everything I lived for. For I had a dream that we will rise up and find the truth that all men are created equal. For I had a dream that the 4 little girls will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by their skin color, but the content of their character. For I had a dream that the day will come that little black boys and little black girls will be holding hands with little white girls and little white boys as sisters and brothers. For yes, this is my hope. And for yes, that it has come. And period. And all done. All in all, I think Martin Luther King was a pretty good guy. In the midst of tragic events toward African Americans like the Baptist church bombing, Martin Luther King triumphed over the adversity, using only his nonviolent tactics to fight back. Wow. I hope I got 100.